came across in the classroom, Dr. Travis put in my heart a desire to know God through His Word. And that's what we're trying to do on Exploring the Word.
Exploring the Word, weekday afternoons at 3 Central on American Family Radio. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Democrats and their friends in the media seem to be the only ones who don't agree with President Trump's accomplishments so far and seem to object to literally anything that comes out of his mouth. A CBS News poll taken last night showed that 76% of Americans approved of Trump's speech. A CNN poll taken right after the speech found the same results. 7 in 10 viewers had a positive reaction to Trump's message. Trump went down a list of many of his 100 executive orders and 400 executive actions, and 3 of them, terminate DEI programs, recognize that there are only 2 sexes, male and female, and banning men from playing in women's sports. And the last one is something Democrats simply do not get on board with. Fox News contributor Guy Benson.
No, those are all popular, and they are all things that are controversial to the Democrats and to the news media, who are on the opposite side of a 70-30 to 80-20 issue, depending on which one you look at. I think maybe the best line of the speech all night had to do with another one of those big issues, which was securing the border. Right. Trump went back, called back to the campaign. The Democrats said over and over again, whether it was Harris or Biden or anyone else, we need a bill. We can't do anything. We can't fix this crisis we created without a bill from Congress. And Trump killed the bill. And then he said, look at the actual results over these first 6 weeks. Turns out you didn't need new legislation. You just needed a new president.
Fox News contributor Joe Concha says Democrats just want to be the resistance, but without any solutions.
When you see 45 senators, for example, vote against a bill that says biological men should not compete against biological women in sports, and every single senator on the Democratic side votes against that bill, that shows, okay, we are the resistance, but what's your solution? To allow men in women's locker rooms? And you could go down the line. How do you not applaud when border crossings are at an all-time low? How do you not applaud all the things the president has done in his first 6 weeks? You could disagree with a couple of things, sure, but the way they are acting right now is like petulant children.
One of the stories the president highlighted in his address was that of Florida mom January Littlejohn, whose daughter was transitioned at school without her consent.
My administration is also working to protect our children from toxic ideologies in our schools. A few years ago, January Littlejohn and her husband discovered that their daughter's school had secretly socially transitioned their 13-year-old little girl. Stories like this are why, shortly after taking office, I signed an executive order banning public schools from indoctrinating our children with transgender ideology.
HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is looking to shake up the federal government's vaccine approval committees. Steve Jordahl reports.
According to Politico and several other sources, RFK Jr. plans on replacing members of the committees at CDC and NIH that advise the federal government on vaccines. His concern is twofold. First, he wants to weed out any conflicts of interest among members of the committees. Twyla Brace of Citizens Council for Health Freedom says some members of those committees may be enriching themselves through insider information, while others could be making sure that their corporation or industry or business interests are protected.
A government committee is made up of individuals who have tried very hard to get onto that committee because they know that they can influence decisions.
She says there's pressure from outside the committees as well.
If the government approves them on the childhood vaccination schedule, that means that the government's going to fund them. The clinics are going to give them, and for the pharmaceutical companies, this is a huge financial win.
Secondly, Kennedy wants to look at the growing number of vaccines we're forcing on our kids and if there's a correlation to the number of health problems they're having. Around 40% of American children have a chronic health condition.
I think that RFK is trying to make sure that they are not getting those conditions because of all of the vaccinations that are taking place.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildman and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. That's the name of the program you're listening to. We're live radio here. It's Wednesday, March the 5th, 2025. And because there's just nothing much to talk about today, nothing much happening in the world, we're just going to play some music and relax here. Watching first let me introduce our panel here. Wesley Wildman, good morning.
Good morning.
Fred Jackson.
Good morning.
Chris Woodward.
Good morning.
So, fellers.
No jazz music today.
No jazz music today. We don't have time for it, although I do like smooth jazz.
Yeah.
I will say this. I don't know if this is a proverb or not, but I'm going to make it one.
Okay.
The proverbial drinking from a fire hydrant is what watching President Trump's what was it called, Fred?
Joint session of Congress, speech to a joint session of Congress.
That.
Yes.
Last night, that's what I felt like. But
Yep.
I didn't want to move away from the water fountain or from the water hydrant because everything he said was encouraging and positive, and the reasons I voted for him and millions of people voted for him, Wesley. It was just wonderful.
Yes, it was. There wasn't any for me, at least. I watched about an hour of it.
He spoke for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, I watched
longest in history.
I watched the first hour, and there was nothing in the first hour where I was doing the polite applause just because he's the president. And everything was like yes, and it was like I was on adrenaline.
Right.
I was on adrenaline on my yeses.
Just like your son hit a home run.
Yes. On every one of them.
On every one of them. Yeah.
We got clips we'll get to here.
Yeah, we're going to play some of the clips because there's just so much good stuff from last night. We're going to comment.
So for those that didn't get to watch it or didn't get to listen to it, we'll bring the highlights here shortly.
Now, of course, the chamber was divided, Fred, but the Democrats sat on the right, ironically enough, on President Trump's right.
Yes.
And the Republicans sat on the left side of the House of Representatives, the room. And the Democrats, they might as well have been at a funeral service, and complete with church fans.
Yes.
Handheld church fans. You remember the old-fashioned kind that the little old ladies used to use back before air conditioning?
Kind of ping pong.
Yeah, they were.
Paddles.
They had them some little paddles that had statements on them, like they were playing bingo or something. A game. But it was. I don't know. Anyway, what were your thoughts on last night?
Well, I have a new way to describe the Democratic Party. They are the party of the pathetic. And that's where they were. They had decided going into the speech last night that they were going to hold protests. In fact, very early on in the speech, Democrat Congressman Green from Texas stood up and started hollering. Do we have that audio?
We do.
Okay, this is Al Green.
Yes.
This is he had a long career as a soul singer, and then he is this the same? Oh, my bad. My bad.
Looks like one.
Yeah, my bad. So this gentleman is and I use that term lightly, is a congressman from Texas, and he gets up early on and starts wielding his cane.
Right.
And shouting, standing up, shouting at the president, right?
And Speaker Johnson, he banged the gavel and said, "Hey, you guys need to be polite, hush." or I'm going to do something about this. They continued on, specifically Representative Al Green. And that brings us to this bit of audio here where Speaker Johnson had enough. Clip 1.
Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
That's what they say at basketball games when another team is losing at the end of the game.
Yeah. Hey, that crossed the line for me when he started wielding the cane.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was that's the next level here.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to be shouting, it's another thing to be pointing something.
Okay, so we live in a contentious country.
Sure.
I've seen Republicans do things that they shouldn't do at events like this. So this is a human problem sometimes. However, the Democrats here, well, this fella in particular,
yes,
you cannot get up in the middle of a speech to the country and just take over the floor by just shouting like a wild man.
Right.
And
point your cane at the president of the United States of America.
What do you think's going to happen? I think he knew he was going to be removed, and no other people were removed, right?
No, it was just him.
Yeah.
And he ignored
the rest of the Democrats did behave in that sense, right?
Yes.
They interrupted, but when they were asked to stop, they stopped.
Yeah.
Now, early on, not long after this, Trump said Democrats are never happy. It shouldn't be this way. He actually invited them to work with him and Republicans, even though they're probably not going to do that. Clip 2.
This is my 5th such speech to Congress. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, a disease that would wipe out entire nations, or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history, or the stoppage of crime to the lowest levels ever recorded. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. Five times I've been up here. It's very sad, and it just shouldn't be this way.
And he was right. They did not applaud, and we can talk about that. There were moments when everybody there should have applauded.
Right.
There were moments later in the speech. We're going to talk about that.
Okay, so at every presidential State of the Union, every president, be he a Republican or a Democrat, of course, they talk about their policy achievements as they see them and their goals and aspirations for the country. But they also bring guests to the event, and they will point at them and tell their story.
Sure.
And that's just a part of it. All presidents do it.
And when they can, they tie that in with some of the achievements that their administration has done.
Yes.
Right. So last night, I was stunned when the Democrats didn't stand for this one. There was a young Fred. Why don't you tell the story? Because I take too long.
Yes, there was a young man who the president introduced. He was a young man that in 2018 was diagnosed with brain cancer and given 5 months to live. And there he was last night. He was in the crowd, and the president, DJ Daniels, the little boy's name. He's 13 years old now.
Yeah.
And the president had made him an honorary police officer. And, of course, there was a standing ovation by the Republicans. The Democrats didn't do anything. And then the president said, also, I have an announcement tonight that I am going to make you, DJ, an honorary member of the Secret Service detail. And at that moment, the head of the Secret Service walks down to this balcony seat where DJ is sitting.
Right. And DJ, the little kid, his
Shocked.
eyes are popping.
He's shocked. His dad is beside him. His dad is shocked. And the head of the Secret Service presents little DJ with a badge. So he becomes, an honorary member of the Secret Service.
It was an apolitical moment.
It was absolutely, and then
no politics there.
And then DJ gives the head of the Secret Service a hug.
Yeah, bear hug. Yeah,
it was a bear hug. It
was awesome.
It was a moment where surely at that moment Democrats could get up and say, "Hooray for you, DJ!" Mm-hmm. Not "Hooray for you, Donald Trump." Hooray for you, DJ.
Hey, add to the fact that this kid was black.
Yes.
So you have the Democrats failed. That has racist overtones to me because,
based on their definition.
Based on their definition, I mean, you have a young black boy who overcame cancer. His dad's there with him, and he gets appointed a honorary Secret Service agent, and the kid's just thrilled to death, and the Democrats are sitting there like they just drank 3 cups of prune juice.
It was terrible. It was just
what are they thinking there? Is that going to be good optics, bad optics? Or why can't you applaud that?
All I can think is they hate Donald Trump so badly that they weren't going to do anything to recognize some degree of agreement.
Well, that makes them
Donald
look
Trump.
ridiculous.
Of course it does.
Yeah. Now, we do have DJ's reaction this morning on Fox. He was brought on. He had a lengthy sit-down interview via Skype on Fox and Friends with Steve Ducey. But here is DJ's reaction, a bit of it, this morning, clip 13.
I was not expecting that. Nobody even told us, even though that they knew. They didn't even want to tell us.
I think is watching right now. What would you like to say to Donald Trump?
I like to say thank you to him. And I hope he got his cowboy hat because I bought him a brown one from Texas, but I'm not sure if they got it out the thing where they check it because the dog had to sniff it and stuff like that.
I did not edit any of that.
You knew he was from Texas because his dad, who was there last night with him, had a Texas shirt on.
You know,
sure
the Longhorn shirts,
the Lone Star State shirts. Go ahead, Wesley.
And I could be reading in this a little bit, but the Democrats there for a while, and maybe they still do, but they were just anti-cops, anti-police, anti-cops, anti-police for many years. Right, and so for this gentleman to have the aspiration of wanting to become an officer, and then him being given the opportunity to carry a badge for Secret Service. Yeah. Being in law enforcement in general, I wonder if that had anything else to do on top of everything else for them not to get.
It was a very emotional and touching moment, and it's one that under normal conditions everybody in the building would have clapped for. There's no reason not to clap for it. In other words, I use the word apolitical, meaning it wasn't political. Yes, the night was political, and President Trump was in your face to the Democrats. There's no question about that. He was dishing it, but that particular moment and a few others, the Democrats, if they would have just stood up and applauded what had happened in this particular story, it would have been a better look for them. But as Fred said, the hatred runs so deep. I saw Ted Cruz last night, the senator from Texas, and he was asked about this. He made an interesting point. He said, look, I think he said 13 or something like that, of these that he's been to as a senator, these State of the Union addresses. And he said, so I've been here for Republican and Democrat presidents. And he said, I didn't agree with President Obama or President Biden on their politics. But he said, I respected the office of the presidency. So during the State of the Union, when the president walked in, whether it be Obama or Biden, I stood and I applauded. He said, because it's an American tradition, and I'm applauding, I'm honoring and respecting the office of the presidency. And I thought, that is a great answer. And he says, we've always done it that way, Democrats and Republicans on both sides, until recently, where now the the Democrats have basically lost their minds.
So is it safe to say they have bad manners?
I think so. I think so. Now, I will say this. I'm surprised they even showed up at all.
Yeah.
Are you guys a little bit surprised?
There were some who were advocating for boycotting the event. But then
That would have been helpful.
I think it was
That'd have been worse, you
That'd
mean?
have been
worse
better.
look?
Yeah, and I think Hakeem Jeffries said, listen, we have to show the American public there is opposition to this president.
Oh, that's
we
true.
need to show up.
Yeah.
One
All right,
moment.
Let me
okay,
reset the show here. You're listening to the radio program Today's Issues on American Family Radio. This is American Family Radio, and I'm Tim with Wesley and Fred and Chris. This is a live radio program, and we are playing clips and reacting to one of the best political speeches I've ever seen last night in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol, given by President Donald Trump. Go ahead, Chris.
One of the moments early on in the speech is during a moment when Trump was bringing up the Electoral College results and the popular vote. And for those that maybe forgot or never knew,
He
Trump
wanted to remind them.
Yeah, Trump won the popular vote as well as the Electoral College, the Electoral College being the one that pushed somebody into the Oval Office. So Trump won hands down. A majority of Americans won him as president. He tried to bring that up, and Democrats booed, but then Republicans tried to drown them out. Clip 3.
We won all 7 swing states, giving us an Electoral College victory of 312 votes. We won the popular vote by big numbers and won counties in our country.
That went on and on.
And then they wrestled.
Why did the Democrats boo?
They say that Trump, he won the popular vote, but it's a misnomer because he won it by just a little bit.
That's it. That's
When
what they're
Democrats win, it doesn't matter how much they win. We
Yeah.
have a mandate.
They said it's just 1.5% he won it by.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but you predicted he wouldn't win at all.
Yeah. This is just in golf. We call this the Democrats. They need a mulligan. They need a do-over because last night was a disaster.
Yeah.
For them in terms of the optics. If there's not everybody in the country agrees with Trump on issues but they're losing.
They're losing.
The president is winning. He won the election and he's winning people over, the American public over with the policies that he's going after. And You have the result. You have the proof of that, right?
There was a CBS poll taken after last night's speech. I want you to listen to this.
You mean liberal CBS?
Liberal CBS. Views of Trump's speech amongst speech watchers, 76% approved. 76%.
Wow.
Time Trump spent on issues you care about, 63% said a lot.
Wow.
63%. And the speech made you feel. 68% said hopeful.
Wow.
So this is the results of a CBS poll last night. The problem for Democrats is they've taken the opposite point of view on transgenderism and mutilation surgery.
They're trying to push it down our throats.
They are. They've taken the opposite point of view on men in girls' sports.
Yeah, they're on the wrong side of history right there.
They're on the wrong side.
Yeah.
But you would think.
Illegal immigration.
Yeah, illegal immigration.
Right.
You would think that after the election loss, these polls and all of these things, and some Democrats are saying this, some Democrats are saying we have to shut up about these issues because we're losing because of these issues.
Right.
We're on the wrong side. And yet this week, the Senate, 45 Democrats voted against a bill to protect women's sports.
Right.
What state was that? It was, or it's in Washington D.C.
Yeah,
it's the Senate.
The U.S. Senate. Yeah,
Yes.
they voted to block the bill. And
so what's more exciting for me is not just what Trump is accomplishing, but being able to look at our guess or predict where the Democrats will be in 3 years, that is more exciting than looking at what Trump is going to accomplish, because
I'm not reading what you're saying, Wesley. You hide your your emotions so well.
Listen, if they had any sense at all, if they had any conviction at all, they would say,
who's they? The Democrats?
The Democrats, they would say, listen, we can hold our convictions about we won't. Democrats can say we won't privately in the meeting. We won't men and women's sports. We know we want that.
Right.
We won't open borders. We don't care. We won't socialize everything.
Right.
But we have got, for now, for the next 3 years, we're going to prioritize those at the bottom.
Right. We're going to have to dial this crazy agenda of ours back, or we're going to lose every election.
But then, instead, you get what you get yesterday, and you're going to get more of that, and you're going to get there. Because, I mean, we've seen in the last month how they have defended all of the Trump, the Doge findings.
Who has defended it?
The Democrats are saying, they're saying, no, we need, they're complaining that we, meaning the Trump administration through Doge and through Elon Musk, they're uncovering all of this waste, fraud, and abuse of money to other countries, and they're complaining about it. They're having problems with it. The Democrats are. So
they're having problems with the uncovering itself?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And all of that. So they keep doing things like that as opposed to finding new issues to their demise. I'm more so looking at, I don't know what the Democrat Party even looks like in 3 years.
You know what it looks like? AOC.
Right.
And Jasmine Crockett and Al, I'll shake my can at you green.
So then you have a split in the Democrat Party then.
Yeah, they control.
Right
they're
now?
pretty much running things.
Right now, you want to know what it looks like?
Oh, we know what it looks like now.
Have you ever seen a dumpster fire?
I knew you were going to say.
Because that's what they look like right now. And
here's another reason they were sad last night.
Yeah.
And Trump alluded to this. Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, did a mea culpa yesterday and said, I'm sorry what happened at the Oval Office there last week. I'm ready to sign the minerals deal. All right? That's the other thing. What you may have missed last night, and Trump alluded to this, remember he said he wants to take control of the Panama Canal? And everybody kind of laughed about that. I don't know if you guys heard the news, but there is a company, BlackRock, which has major American investors. They have just purchased the ports on either side of the Panama Canal. They purchased it from a Hong Kong billionaire who controlled those ports. And so they've struck this deal now. So this is American investor companies, BlackRock, who now control the ports at either end of the Panama Canal.
This just took place?
This just took place in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
And he alluded to it last night very briefly, but didn't spend much time on it. But this is another victory.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, I think, and I was unaware of this. I guess I'd maybe heard some here or there rumors, but what President Trump pointed out in the last few weeks, maybe months, is that the Panama Canal, which is absolutely critical to trade for our military, and he, as Trump rightly points out, we, the Americans, built it with the help of the Panamanians back also many years ago. By that I mean a lot of the workers we would have paid. I think I'm right on that. But the point is that it's critical, and that China was
they're running it,
right?
Essentially,
right. And so Trump was saying that shouldn't be
right
in the Western Hemisphere. We should own and operate it. And what you're saying, that's happening now. Anyway.
Yep.
All right, we got so much more to talk about.
We got Trump's own words on Zelensky we need to get to.
That's true.
And Pocahontas.
Yes, he did talk about Pocahontas.
Both right.
Last night. Yeah, it's anyway, we'll be back with more of today's issues on the American Family Radio Network.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Jesus once said that if a blind man leads a blind man, both will fall into a pit. Well, the truth of those words happened a few years ago in Malaysia. A cross-country race was held. The race was to cover a 7-mile course. 2 hours after the race had begun, ample time for the runners to cover the course. None of the runners had returned. The officials, fearing that something might have happened, set out in automobiles to find the runners. The officials found all the runners 6 miles away and sprinting in the wrong direction. Many of the runners had already covered distances of 10 miles. A.J. Rogers, the association secretary that sponsored the race, said the mix-up apparently occurred when the lead runner took a wrong turn at the 5th checkpoint, and the rest followed him. Sometimes this happens. We play follow the leader without knowing where the leader is going. We do things simply because someone else does them. We make our decisions because someone else has made the same decision before us. And while this is not always bad, it most certainly isn't always good. All of us should be aware of where it is that we're going. One of the greatest mistakes so many make in our society is that of running as fast as they can, following the person in front of them, trying desperately to catch up, and not knowing where the fellow they are following is headed. Occasionally someone will come along who will consider where it is that he wants to go. He stops long enough to study where following the man in front will lead. These people make up their own minds about which way the race should be going. The Galilean was a fellow like this. There was a full-fledged race going on when he came upon the scene. All the runners were following the leaders. They were pushing with all they had to keep up to be abreast, racing with the crowd. The leaders had always run their path, and they never questioned its authenticity. They simply took for granted that the runner in front was going the right way. Then he came into the race. He saw where those who were supposed to be leading the race were headed, and he knew that that was not the path that the judge had set for the race. So he stopped, took note of the roads, and headed off in another direction. And since he was the leader in this new direction, the leaders that were going in the other direction became very angry that he should do such a thing. Why didn't he follow them like all the other runners? Of course, the only thing to do was to belittle him and eventually get rid of him. He could prove dangerous to the course they were leading. You know, somehow this same idea of following the leader that prevailed back then is still around today. If the first car passes an injured man on the highway, all the others are supposed to do the same. If one man makes a joke about Christian values or Christians, then all the others are supposed to do the same. If one person shuns another because of a different color, then we must all shun him. It's a game we play. We call it follow the leader. I believe I would rather know where I'm going than to be in a hurry to follow the person in front of me.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Jeremiah 29, verse 13.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
So that fellow you just listened to that you hear every day during this program is my dad, Don Wildman. He's the one that tells those stories that it's called, the program's called It's My Turn. We recorded those a few years back.
More than a few.
Was it like 15 years ago or something like that?
Something like that.
But probably 20, honestly.
Yeah.
But they sound like they were recorded yesterday.
Yeah, could I've been here 11.
Okay. I don't know how many they are, but we've been playing those for years. They're very popular with our listeners.
Got a book out with with them as well.
So, but my dad is the founder of this ministry, American Family Association and American Family Radio, and he was also a pastor, and he was also a prolific writer. And so those stories were in books he wrote over a course of, 10, 15 years back in the 60s and 70s. And so that's what you're listening to right there. Well, we have a documentary film that tells the story of how American Family Association and American Family Radio came into existence in the first place, and some of the causes and victories that we've had over the years. 2 years from now will be 40 years of ministry, if you can believe that. It's hard to believe. 40 years ago, 2 years from now, my dad would have started this ministry. Dad went to be with the Lord a year ago, December 2023, but his story is told now. It's a fascinating David versus Goliath type story in a movie called Culture Warrior that we've produced, and it's free to watch. And it's Culture Warrior movie. CultureWarrior.movie. CultureWarrior.movie. It's free to watch, and I want to invite everybody to go watch it. You know, you need a little time. Sit down at your TV or computer and watch it. But
let me just interrupt.
Were you going to say something? Yeah.
Yes, it's going to be 50 years.
50.
You said 40.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. You meant 50.
I wasn't very good at addition in class. That's
one thing I was good at. Okay, yeah. So that's why I can help out. That's one thing I can contribute.
I'm sorry.
Now I'm going to put my headset up and go get some more coffee.
You're correct, sir. 50 years. I don't know how I missed that. Anyway, that's not the big point here. Okay.
I'm not saying it.
We're missing the big point here.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a decade off.
Yeah.
And I should know better. But joining us in studio is M.D. Perkins, who is the producer of the movie, which tells the whole story of my dad in this ministry. And M.D., good morning to you.
Good morning, gentlemen. If I can call you gentlemen.
Yeah, well, you can. I don't know if you'd be accurate or not, but you can. Now,
better than saying
this
morning,
movie,
ladies.
Do what now?
Better than saying morning, ladies.
Yeah. That's what they do with the Democrat
That's
convention. Good morning. Call yourself whatever you want to.
Do I need to give a land acknowledgement or something?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, MD, the movie came out last October.
Mm-hmm.
What's happened?
It's out there, and we want people to go watch it.
Yeah.
Because this is, it is about your dad, but really it's bigger than that, because it's the whole story of how Christian activism even got started back in the 70s and 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
What were those initial concerns, and what were some of the fights? What were the battlegrounds of the culture war at the time? I mean, because all of those battles are still being fought today in different ways. You know, when you think about issues of entertainment or pornography and obscenity, the homosexual agenda,
just moral values in the culture.
Exactly. Yeah, it's always been an assault on the family. And so this is why American Family Association exists, and it's why Christians initially got involved back at that time, and why your dad was moved to stand up and say something.
Yeah, many of our listeners, especially baby boomers listening to me right now, will remember these names. Of course, my dad, Don Wildman, James Dobson, Tim and Beverly LaHaye, Phyllis Schlafly, D. James Kennedy, Adrian Rogers. Those are just a few names. Jerry Falwell, Chuck Colson.
Yep.
These are just a few names that people, again, of my generation in particular, will recognize, and that God raised up in the 70s.
Yeah.
And started a movement that was one of the most powerful cultural and even political movements in our country's history.
Absolutely, yeah. And your dad was deeply connected and worked, partnered with all of those people in different ways over the years. So, there's a lot of ways that I think Christians need to recognize some of their own history, because it gives you a context for how we got here as well as giving you some patterns and some ways of thinking about how we fight the culture war battles today.
So if you got if you got listeners, some of which have already seen it, how can they play a role in this week where this week we're emphasizing Culture Warrior movie. We're wanting to get the word out again to let people know this is a high quality film with a purpose that will motivate you to do something in the most tangible way for God's glory. If they've already seen it, what are we asking them to do?
Share it.
Yeah.
Share it with other people. Send it to somebody who maybe hasn't seen it yet, or encourage somebody to watch it. Send it to your pastor. Try and get a few people together, maybe to watch it together and talk about some of these things. I mean, I think there's a lot of ways that having these conversations may help us strengthen our own resolve in the battles that we're fighting today.
Man.
MD, I think too, what this movie will give you is a depiction of what of the definition of a culture warrior.
Yeah.
If people hear that culture warrior, well, what is a culture warrior?
Yeah.
And this movie will give you that answer.
Yeah, I mean, the term culture warrior has been used so much as a pejorative.
Yes.
Recently, I mean, just the other day, I noticed, a good friend of ours, Robert Gagnon, who's a New Testament scholar and has spoken up about a number of things, including homosexuality. He made a comment on his X page about how he had been labeled negatively as a culture warrior.
Yeah.
And, just kind of recognizing the fact that people have kind of taken this label, but it doesn't have to be a negative thing. And in fact, the whole point of it is that the culture was moving in a certain direction. Like, we didn't really start the culture war. We just stood up and said, wait, this shouldn't be happening. Mm-hmm. There should be a free exchange of ideas. There should be an alternate opinion from what you're just getting on mainstream media and in entertainment. And that's what Don was trying to express.
Yeah.
But then that, of course, incited this blowback because there was this sense of entitlement among the left and the media elites that they should have full reign and control over all this. So there's where your culture war comes from. It comes from the fact that we were told that there was a free exchange of ideas, but it turned out there really wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, my dad stood for whatever God stood for.
Yes.
Just to simplify it, as defined in the Bible.
Amen.
And pardon me, he did so in the public arena, and a lot of people hated him for it.
Yeah.
And but he continued to stand and for Christian moral values, and he took the arrows, so to speak.
That's one of many reasons we at AFA still exist today, is because of his lack of compromise.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. All right, so people can go and watch the movie culturewarrior.movie. Now,
yes.
not .com. culturewarrior.movie, and it's free.
Yeah.
To watch. Check it out. And I think you'll be inspired and encouraged by it.
And yes, we do get DVDs, right? Don't we? Okay.
We do, yeah. And you can go to the website and connect in and order a DVD copy if you want, which has a lot of additional material that isn't in the movie.
So you can for those still want to watch it on DVD, they can do it. It's easy to order.
Absolutely. Yeah, through the website, culturewarrior.movie.
Thank you, MD.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
MD Perkins joining us there, the producer of the documentary about the founder of this radio network, and my dad, Don Wildman. You're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Wesley, Fred, and Chris, comments at AFR. Here's our email address if you want it. Comments at AFR.net, comments at AFR.net. Back to the speech last night.
Yes. One of the more talked about moments involves President Trump mentioning a letter that he has received recently from Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky. Here's the bit of that audio, clip 8.
Received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than the Ukrainians, he said. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you. I appreciate that he sent this letter. Just got it a little while ago.
Now, I have a related clip, but we can stop there and get your thoughts if you would like.
Related to the Ukrainian situation?
Yes. Trump went on to say that there were people in the room who would like to see the war in Ukraine continue for years and years. And Elizabeth Warren, in a cutaway shot, is sitting there clapping. And Trump acknowledged her and referred to her by the nickname given to her by Trump and many other people.
Yeah, let's hear that.
Clip 9.
Let's hear that.
I'm also working tirelessly to end the savage conflict in Ukraine. Millions of Ukrainians and Russians have been needlessly killed or wounded in this horrific and brutal conflict with no end in sight. The United States has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense with no security, with no anything. Do you want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes.
Yeah, he's.
Let's go.
I know Wesley, that's disrespectful.
No, it's not. She disrespected him.
Yeah.
Somebody did have
Pocahontas is Elizabeth Warren, the senator from Kentucky, in case you didn't know. And if you want to know what the origins are of the nickname that Trump gave her a couple of years back.
She earned it.
A few years back. She claimed on her citizenship form or
application
resume.
See, I just see things.
An application for
I
what?
think it was an application for university.
Driver's license? Oh, university.
She claimed for years she was Native American.
So do you see now how I get my reaction? It's so easy. I see things backwards. I see that she lied and said she was an Indian.
Right.
And then she claps while he says that we don't want to send any more money.
Right.
And then he goes, okay, strike 3. You know what? Pocahontas says yes.
Right. She wants to continue the war for 5 more years. That's what he was saying.
Yes.
And he called her Pocahontas because she called herself a Native American. What did she put on that form that
like
it was some kind of college form? You said
it was like a 1 or 2% Native Indian in her background.
And even after she entered the political realm, it was you talked about. It was always mentioned in articles that she was something Native American.
All right. Well, you can look at her. Just look at her. You can tell she is not Native American. Probably not even 1 or 2%.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what there I go. What Elizabeth Warren was doing with that application was classic DEI liberalism. She's trying to say I am a minority.
Now we're getting you. Come on, Dad.
I understand it. She was the first.
She created that.
She was she's the first one to make a mockery of that whole story, and Trump's just playing it out.
There was a moment last night where the screen cut away to show her again, the camera cut away to show her again, and she was looking at her phone, and I saw memes on X, formerly known as Twitter, that said Elizabeth Warren checking her email to see if her 23andMe test results have come back yet.
Hey, so I'm guessing on that. I did not see that live. I'm guessing
Pocahontas remark.
The Pocahontas remark. I'm guessing that was not on his slide.
Not on the teleprompter.
Teleprompter. Okay,
no.
Fair enough.
J.D. Vance got a big kick out of it. For people that didn't watch it, he smiles and then
Trump has 2 different speeches. So he has one on the teleprompter, and then one where he adds commentary to whatever's on the teleprompter, or he reacts to the moment.
Yes.
Which makes him a very effective speaker.
Very, very, very.
He does do good at sticking with the script when he needs to. But
all right.
Anyway, you said he spoke for 1 hour and 40 minutes, Fred.
Yep,
Ali.
He did. It was a long.
I had to tell my daughter to turn it off and go to bed.
Well, that would have been what time did it end? It was 10 o'clock Central Time, so 11 o'clock Eastern Time.
Yeah, it started at 8 o'clock Central Time.
Yeah,
and
2 hours.
It ran for 1 hour and 40 minutes.
He spoke for 1 hour and 40 minutes, but it was. I know when it came on, I was watching Fox News at 8 o'clock, which is I live in the Central Time Zone. And, of course, they had all the preliminaries, right?
Yes.
That led up to the the actual speech. But I'm still amazed that a fellow that's 78 and a half years old can go on like that. The stamina that he has.
I know.
To speak for an hour. Have you ever spoken for 1 hour?
No.
I can't remember. I don't think I ever have either.
The longest was 45 minutes.
Yeah, I've spoken for me too. I've spoken for by yourself.
By myself, yeah. And it was a sermon.
Yeah, a sermon.
Yeah.
But you're talking about going an hour and 45.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it does have to have everything. I'll bet you that he couldn't cut anything out. They probably went through the speech with him. He said, no, leave that in, leave that in, leave that in, leave that in, because it was just one good thing after another one. Yeah.
I do think that a large part of his stamina for his second term in office has to do with the 2 assassination attempts on his life.
Yes.
How do you mean that?
I mean that he's realizing and I don't know if it's necessarily this connecting it with his stamina. Maybe that's not completely
his physical stamina.
Stamina, but his passion and his resolve to put himself around people that just don't care about what the media may make the appearance out to be, but he's going to do what he promised to do. His resolve is as a result of the 1 and then the next 2 total that we know of.
Yeah.
Attempts on his life.
Well, he said last night, as he said before. Do you have that clip?
We do.
All right, listen. This is a powerful moment.
Clip 11.
I believe that my life was saved that day in Butler for a very good reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. I believe that. Thank you. Thank you.
That's been a portion of it. I kind of never.
You know, his, this happens to every human being, but his voice is weak.
It's tiring.
Well, yeah.
Was that an hour and 37 minutes in? No.
That's true. That's a very good point. I wouldn't use the word weak. Weak compared to the Trump we knew 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Which he had a very booming, more booming voice. But he's still got a good voice. I'm not taking away from his delivery there, but it's not quite as strong. But what he said right there was, I think to your point, Wes, he said he believes God. Listen, when you see the video clip of what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, all right, and you're talking about a bullet that goes how far, Wesley, from his?
About an inch. Well, it hit his ear, but it was an inch, and cut an inch.
Had it gone 1 inch,
if he would have moved,
if he'd have moved
his head,
but he moved his head to turn and point at the TV monitor or whatever they use to show the graphics that he was referring to in his speech. This was a campaign speech. The whole world's seen it in Butler, Pennsylvania, and so. You turn your head, he turns his head
just the
right amount, and just in time. Otherwise, a bullet. I hate to be so crude like this, but we all know what would have happened.
That's right. You can leave it at that.
It would have been a JFK type moment on national television, on international television. Yep. That we wouldn't be over it today.
Right.
I don't think having to witness that in person. But
it didn't.
But it didn't, and I agree with him. A lot of Democrats don't even believe in God at all. So I don't know how you
get mad about it.
Well, yeah. So how you get mad about it? So whether you believe Trump or not, he believes that the miraculous saving of his life, sparing of his life, was because God had something for him to do. Yeah. That's what he was saying. Mm-hmm. And how do you
disprove that?
How do you disprove that? So,
it was also a turning point in the campaign.
Yeah.
When he got up off the ground, was helped up, and he shook his fist in the air and said, "Fight, fight, fight."
Yeah.
That, I believe, was a turning point in people's minds. This guy is the real deal.
Yeah.
He is the real deal.
I was grilling hamburgers in my backyard.
Yeah.
And all that stuff happened.
This is the type of person that we need to bring some correction back to this country, to secure the border. All of those things that people were concerned about. I think and Democrats could not argue that moment. They couldn't. And so I think Democrats knew they lost at that moment.
One more clip here in the last 5 minutes or so. This has largely been referred to as the mic drop, where he's done everything great. And this was not even towards the end or anything, but listen to what I don't want to oversell it here or give it away. Clip 10.
The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president.
He came off the top rope there with the elbow.
Yes, there are many metaphors we could use here.
Yes.
I would call it, if people know about basketball, you ever seen a tomahawk dunk? That where the Michael Jordan type goes flying through the air, and beneath him is the other player, and he just dunks on him.
Yes,
with authority. That's what Trump just did right there. He just dunked on the Democrats. And listen, I try to be objective, and if the Democrats had anything to offer at all, that was a counterpunch, that you could say, they got a point there. They won that one.
But
there's nothing.
That's right.
That they can say to what he just said.
That's right.
Because one of the reasons, as you point out, Wesley, that the Democrats lost the presidential election, one of the main reasons was Biden and Harris did away with our borders. And they just said, everybody can come into our country, millions from around the world. Well, Americans, both Democrats and Republicans, said, whoa, just a minute. This is terrible. We can't have just gangs and people we don't know who's coming from around the world.
Drugs.
Pouring into our country by the millions. And we're supposed to pay for everything. Anyway, that was a terrible
political move.
So the Democrats, remember, they kept saying, we need comprehensive immigration reform. We need to pass comprehensive immigration reform. That's what we need to do, or our hands are tied.
Yeah.
And Trump said, no, your hands aren't tied.
Right.
I'll prove it. And what he said was, he got to be president. All he did was, he sent our military to the border.
Yeah, Pete Hegseth confirmed.
Yes.
Sent him down there.
Tom Homan
is
Homan. Rounding up the bad guys and sending them home, wherever. And so all it took was the will.
That's right.
A president to stop illegal immigration, mass illegal immigration, and that's what he was pointing out right there. And there's nothing the Democrats can say.
Yeah, there wasn't was there even a boo there, or was it just? Oh, okay.
I'm sure somebody booed.
Yeah.
All right, we're out of time just about here. We're going to have another half hour after the news. But wow, Chris, how many clips did you bring to us?
For this show.
Yeah, for this show, I think it was a record.
We started with 17, and it's now at 19 approximately. We had
how many did we get played?
I played 8. I think that may be a record.
Eight clips of one speech today on this show.
Big thank you to Brent for letting us have this many and for getting us on air.
That's right.
Yeah. I wonder if the Democrats maybe will today send a letter over like Zelensky did.
I'll be looking forward to
We'd
that.
like to meet.
We stand ready to work with a strong leadership.
No, but you just gave Babylon B the best idea for today.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hakeem Jeffries did say we're going to work with Johnson.
Poor Nancy Pelosi last night. She's donning her mask in the, and I'm not making fun if maybe she's sick for all I know, but it just looked kind of, she's the only one in there that I saw. She got her mask on, and she needs to go to the house anyway. I'll stop right there. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Abraham Hamilton III.
If you really want to see the tides turning in our country, can I challenge you and encourage you? If the Lord could grab a hold of us in our family, you would see the tide in our politics turn.
The Hamilton Quarter, weekday afternoons at 5 Central on American Family Radio.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The debate continues over the future of Gaza. Alex Hogan has the latest.
The Trump administration has rejected a plan for the reconstruction of Gaza backed by Arab leaders. The administration says the strip is currently uninhabitable, and this proposed plan does not address that. In his speech last night, President Donald Trump vowed to bring back all of the hostages taken by Hamas more than a year ago, although talks to continue the ceasefire and secure a new phase are currently at a standstill. In Tel Aviv, Israel, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
One of the stories President Trump highlighted in his address last night was that of Florida mom January Littlejohn, whose daughter was transitioned at school without her consent.
My administration is also working to protect our children from toxic ideologies in our schools. A few years ago, January Littlejohn and her husband discovered that their daughter's school had secretly socially transitioned their 13-year-old little girl. Stories like this are why, shortly after taking office, I signed an executive order banning public schools from indoctrinating our children with transgender ideology.
Littlejohn, who is a parent advocate for the group Do No Harm, says this indoctrination goes far beyond name and pronoun.
They sat my child down in a closed-door room with 3 adults. She was 13 at the time. And what this is really doing is they're asking children which restroom and locker room they prefer to use, which sex they prefer to room with on overnight field trips. And then they are hiding this information, and in our case, actually withholding the information from us. This is creating a huge wedge between the parent-child relationship, and it's really sending a message to the child that they need to be protected from their parents, not by their parents. It took my ability to protect my daughter and make mental health decisions for her away from me.
President Trump announced that all education institutions, high school level through university level, that allow illegal protests will lose all federal funding. Bronson Woodruff has more.
This is an effort to deal with increased anti-Semitism on our nation's campuses, including violent protests and building takeovers by keffiyeh-clad, mask-wearing, cursing students and others. Rabbi Yaakov Minkin is the executive vice president of the Coalition for Jewish Values.
The biggest question is, why did it ever have to come to this? It was obvious these were students violating university policy and often violating the law. There never should have been a situation where the federal government had to step in. But sadly, that's where we are. Anti-Semitism has been tolerated on campus.
He used the example of, hypothetically, a group of protesters dressed as Klansmen and calling for public lynchings.
How long would that protest be allowed by the university administration before they had the protesters arrested and removed and expelled from the university? So why is it that bigotry against Jews is treated in an entirely different way?
He said President Trump is, quote, absolutely keeping his promises.
This is something the left is very scared by.
Minkin addressed the inevitable pushback that will claim this violates free speech.
First of all, there is that idea you can't pry fire in a crowded theater, but also a university has the right to restrict hateful speech on campus that violates the university's policies.
I'm Bronson Woodruff.
Storms spanning much of the South wreaked havoc with high winds and tornadoes. Eben Brown has the latest.
Tornadoes striking places like Ada, Oklahoma, and Irving, Texas, tore up roofs and left hundreds of thousands of people with no power. Even straight-line winds were ferocious.
We were hiding in our bathtub, and our garage door kept opening and closing.
The Hirschberger family lives in Carrollton, Texas, near Dallas.
And the trees were almost at a 90-degree angle to their bases, and you couldn't see anything, but the house was shaking, the garage, all the tiles in the garage were shaking.
Storms cut short Mardi Gras parades in New Orleans. Mississippi reports 2 storm-related deaths.
And the U.S. stock market is holding a bit steadier today. More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty P.
President Trump's most important job is going to be the trickiest. It's the area where the president can make the biggest progress, but it's also where he can be misled into catastrophic errors. I'm referring to his nomination of literally hundreds of federal judges, including nominations to the U.S. Supreme Court. The good news is that you can help AFA Action's constitutional experts research nominees and give advice to the president. But to do this analysis, AFA Action needs your help. So please visit afaaction.net to donate today.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. That's the name of this show, Today's Issues. We've got 25 more minutes of the show left here today on this March 5th. And we're going to talk with Steve Paisley Jordahl. Good morning, Brother Steve.
Good morning, everybody.
And we're going to get to Steve's collection of topics and clips, and he's got some more of Donald Trump's greatest hits over here.
I can play as many as you want.
Coming your way.
You've got your own Zelensky letter. You got an apology to make.
Someone said I mistakenly said that Elizabeth Warren, a.k.a. Pocahontas, was the U.S. Senator from Kentucky.
Right.
Well, the people of Kentucky, that's news to them. And they're calling here saying she ain't from our area. And so the people of Connecticut, I called up there, and they say, we don't know.
We don't claim her either.
We don't claim her. We don't claim her either. Maybe she's from Indian reservation out west somewhere. You might check with them. No. Elizabeth Warren is a senator from Connecticut, not from Kentucky. I wanted to make that clear. Now, real quick, our tours this year, coming up later this year, are filling up. So if you want to go with us, we got 3 options for the remainder of the year, and I'll just mention them. There's the Washington, D.C. and Mount Vernon trip in June and September. There's the Colonial Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown trip. Those are also in June and September. And those 2 tours, Washington and Williamsburg, are back-to-back. So if you want to go with us and see so much history and eat good and have a good time, vacation for our purpose, and we'll laugh and enjoy each other's company, those are in June and September. And you can, if you want to stay with us for the whole week, we'll take care of you for the whole week. So that's
they're back to back, but they're also.
But you don't have to do them both.
You don't have to do them both. But if you did them both in total, you're looking at a week.
Right. Otherwise, they're 4-day trips that you can take a look at. You can go on either one of them. And so go to the website wildmangroup.com.
That's right, wildmangroup.com.
WILDMON group.com, wildmangroup.com. All the dates, the pricing, the itinerary, everything is there. And then we've got this trip planned for the first time ever. We're going to Boston. Please come to Boston. But we are.
But not in the springtime.
Not in the springtime. We're going in the fall time.
Mm-hmm.
In October. Because a lot of people like to see, they're going to want to go with us to Boston and the surrounding area and see all the history there. You just stuff your face with lobster after lobster after lobster. That's what we're going to do. And then some people may want to then cruise on up into New England, further into New England, and enjoy the foliage, because that's what New Hampshire and Vermont and Maine. And Fred's he knows all about that, being from those.
Beautiful time of the year.
Yeah.
The mountains up in New Hampshire, that area, it's just gorgeous, gorgeous.
So now we're not going to the mountains ourselves. We're doing a history tour of the greater Boston area, including the Freedom Trail. That's coming up in October. Again, I think we've got 72 people signed up and got space for like 20 more. So Stephen McDowell, the Providence Foundation, is going and going to give us all the history, as is Timothy Barton of Wall Builders. He's going with us. Wesley, Walker, Allison, and I'm going. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And the Boston trip, all the information, again, is at the wildmangroup.com. Steve.
Hey.
So what did you think of last night?
I did not watch it live. But
why not?
It was grilling a steak.
I don't want to get in your personal business, but you're a newsman.
I know.
If you don't want to say, if you just want to check the box other right here, go ahead. Other.
No, I was doing some other stuff at home, yeah. But,
okay, that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
You could say none of your business.
But I did. No,
yeah.
Okay. I did check in this morning with it, and I thought it was a good speech. I thought he had what was
a
remarkable.
Good speech.
Yeah. What was remarkable to me was that the Democrats decided not to stand or clap for anything. Almost. I mean, they didn't even clap for a cancer survivor.
Steve, their feelings are hurt.
I know.
And they just can't clap for anything right now. I don't know why they showed up.
Some of them didn't.
Well, you look more ridiculous to me to go and act like petulant. Is that the right word?
Petulant would be one of the words.
Petulant children. Then
the more they do that, the less they can complain though about Trump's manners or behavior.
I know. Listen, we're. If Obama or Biden were in, you would expect the Republicans not to clap for his policy, because that's why our Democrats and Republicans disagree. But to not stand and give a proper appreciation to the office of the presidency, as all Republicans and Democrats have done over time, when the president enters the building, hands out his speech and gets ready to talk, and to the mentions of great American stories that aren't political, that he made mention of, they should have clapped there too. If they'd have just done that, they'd have come off as at least halfway civil people. Yeah. But anyway, I don't know why were you going to go just to sit there and look like, as I said last hour, you just drank 3 glasses of prune juice? Is that what you wanted to look like? Go ahead, Steve.
Should I go on?
Well, I mean, whatever your next topic is.
Okay. Well, while we were disseminating dissembling the speech from last night, Congress is in session, and there was a hearing in the House Oversight Committee. Sanctuary city mayors are in town to Washington, D.C.
Is that what they call themselves?
Well, that was
like a singing group. The Sanctuary City mayors are in town, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
It's one of the questions that they were asked directly from Congressman Comer, who is the chair of the committee, said, "Are you a sanctuary city? Yes or no?" And one of them, New York City Mayor
Adams.
He said yes. The rest of them, there's the Denver mayor, the Boston mayor, Wu, Chicago mayor. So there's New York City, Denver, Boston, and Chicago mayors were there. And I want to give you a little bit of the taste. I just have one. This is Michelle Wu. We talked about Michelle Wu yesterday, I believe, because
Boston mayor.
She there was a tragic situation where a cop an off-duty police officer had to kill a man with a knife who was chasing a couple people into a Chick-fil-A. He announced himself as a police officer, and he told a guy to drop the knife. He didn't, and he shot and killed the suspect. And so when Michelle Wu, the Boston mayor, gets on the microphone at a press conference, she says, "We want to extend all of our condolences and sympathies to the family of the man who's killed, of the criminal," which kind of got her in a little bit of hot water online. And so this was her today. They're talking about immigration. The the Democrats do not like the deportations that are going on, and these mayors all represented their cities as safe and welcoming. This was Mayor Wu when asked about the immigration and the deportations cut 19.
Let's talk about Tom Homan. Shame on him for lying about my city, for having the nerve to insult our police commissioner who has overseen the safest Boston's been in anyone's lifetime. Bring him here under oath, and let's ask him some questions.
So, yeah.
Who's she mad at?
She's mad at Tom Homan.
The
border czar.
Border czar. What's she mad at him for?
Well, because he's facilitating the deportation of all of illegal immigrants.
She has a problem with that?
Yes, she does.
She wants illegal immigrants?
She does. Her city is welcoming.
He's only arresting criminals.
They say he's not, and he said.
I mean, violent criminals.
He said himself, if you bring us into the jail and hand over the criminal in jail, we'll take him, we'll deport him, and that's the end of it. But if you release him into the community, which they do because they don't cooperate with ICE, and ICE has to go track him down. If they go into a house with the criminal and 20 other illegal immigrants that haven't committed a crime other than crossing the border, he'll deport them all.
All right, I want to take a couple minutes here because there may be people listening to us now who go, well, sanctuary city, I've heard that term for a long time, but I'm not as sure as I understand exactly what it means. And, of course, the reason we're talking about this is these sanctuary city mayors, these far left, they call themselves progressives. Abe Hamilton calls them regressives. Yep. We used to call them flaming liberals. that worked out good.
Sure.
These,
Yep.
These are wackadoodles, wackadoodle liberals.
All of them apply.
And I mean that as a term of endearment.
Sure.
The New York City mayor was there, Eric Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to stop by the White House and thank Trump for pardoning him, keeping him out of prison
I don't
while
know
he's in town?
I don't know if he's going to do that, but he did get a thanks from Mr. Comer because he's the only mayor on the panel that has said that he will coordinate with ICE.
Okay, tell us what a sanctuary city is.
Okay, a sanctuary city is a city whose laws, an ordinance has been passed that they welcome illegal immigrants. It's a safe place for illegal immigrants to go. If they come to the city, they'll get all of the city's resources that they can get, and they will not be turned over to the federal government for deportation.
And just to emphasize, they're going to get federal funds and housing and all the benefits.
The city does, right?
The city does. Now, does that from the state or from the government?
Well, the federal would be from the government, and Donald Trump has kind of put that into question. If you're going to do that, you're not going to get federal funds.
Okay.
But
here, and just to further expound on that, and this is why the Republicans, especially Trump, talk about this ad nauseum, is this reason, this sanctuary city business. If you have a illegal immigrant, let's say in Boston, for example, and they commit a armed robbery, or they break into somebody's house, or they assault a citizen, walking down the street to rob them, or something of that nature, and they're picked up by the local cops.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all correct me if I'm wrong here in what I'm saying. Well, the cops, obviously they process the person. They put him in jail. He has a bail or a hearing. I guess they have no cash bail anymore in these big cities. But then, under normal conditions, they would do a check to see who is this person. Well, so the Boston police would say, well, this is Julio Lopez. I'm just making up a name. And maybe he is, if they even know who he is.
Right.
Maybe he has no proof of citizenship. That's another big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we know this guy because he had committed crimes in Cincinnati before he came here, okay? And he's wanted by the feds.
Mm-hmm.
He's wanted by ICE because he's an illegal immigrant committing felonies on American soil, And this is where this is what the word sanctuary means in this situation. So the police department in Boston knows who this guy is. He's a bad dude. But and you would normally say, well, at this point they need to call ICE, call the feds,
Right.
because this is a federal issue and this guy needs to be detained by ICE and or deported. Right? At that point, the Boston police go, you know what? We're not calling ICE. We're not helping the federal government enforce the immigration laws because the immigration laws are immoral.
Therefore, we're sanctuary.
They're wrong. They shouldn't be deporting people because they commit crimes. They shouldn't do it. And so we are going to be a sanctuary to protect these criminals from the federal government. Does that make sense, Fred?
Yeah, that's it exactly. And
that's insanely correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the while, the federal government is sending money to Massachusetts and Boston,
New York,
to help them with their I don't know how much money they send to help them with their government.
Well, we learned that under the Biden administration, FEMA sent money to New York, over $80 million to house illegal immigrants. FEMA. That's what was going on.
The taxpayers paying for it.
Yes.
But when it comes to help us enforce the law, the state of New York or Boston say, we're not going to help you enforce the law. Just keep giving us the money.
Well, and the other thing is that these cities are providing education. A lot of these people, they have families.
The illegal immigrants.
Illegal immigrants. Their kids cannot speak English. So think about the stress putting on the public schools.
Right.
They're getting Medicaid from these states. So that's taking health dollars meant for American citizens and giving them to illegal immigrants. Here's the other thing that's happening in sanctuary cities, though. Chicago, we saw it in the last year and a half or so. Chicago residents very upset. Some of their schools have been shut down, and the city is saying, well, we don't have the money. But the same mayor, the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, says, but we do have money to give to these illegals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was Brandon Johnson the mayor of Chicago? Wasn't he there today?
He was.
Yeah.
So these four mayors went to appear before Congress to answer questions?
Yes.
Yes. All Democrats.
All right, go ahead. Would you need to play any more clips?
No, I don't have any more clips from that particular meeting.
What did the mayor of New York, Adams, say? Do you know?
Well, all the mayors said that their cities are safer than they've ever been. I don't know where they're getting their numbers. Gun violence, they said, is down, and these illegal immigrants contribute mightily to the tax base and all this kind of stuff. And they justified in their own minds and to the members of Congress why they are accepting of illegal immigrants in their cities.
They can only say that with great confidence now because we're actually removing them.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
You know, on the other
Trump's
hand,
helping them out by cleaning out these bad guys.
That way they can keep their talking points.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. So the Democrats were all their questions were all geared towards opposing Donald Trump and the deportation of immigrants. Republicans focused on some of the crime that has been reported that immigrants have caused, and some of the tax dollars that are misapplied, as Fred was just talking about. So it as all congressional hearings are these days. There were two sides. They were kind of talking past each other.
Okay, we can move on to the next topic, but I want to say this: what I've been able to observe the last 10 years, in particular, on this issue, especially when Biden came in and just threw open the borders, is you have a fundamental disagreement among progressives or liberals and conservatives, defined politically more as Republicans and Democrats. It's not all Democrats believe this way, and not all Republicans believe that way, but generally speaking, broadly and generally speaking, majority. Here's what you got going on here, and this is just playing out in elections and so forth. The Republicans believe in law and order. and they do believe in immigration, because we've had millions of people come into our country under Republican presidents through the legal process of application, qualification,
and they get approved, and then
they have to do a citizenship test. There are some things that they have to do to become. Fred, you know how this works. So it's a system, but it's lawful and it's orderly, and we know who's here. That's what Republicans believe in. Democrats don't believe in borders, because to keep people out of America is immoral. They really believe this.
Yes.
They do have some moral values.
This is important for us to emphasize and to be as clear as what you're saying is because there is no common ground here. There's no starting point.
No, there's not. No, there's not. Because that's the reason. So the Democrats, they just don't. If you don't believe in law and order, and you believe that borders are racist, and that people should be able to come in to America from all over the world unchecked, if that's your belief, then obviously you're going to be against ICE.
Yep.
And you're going to call yourself a sanctuary city. So what I'm saying, those are two, and they're pretty open about it. The Democrats and the Republicans on the positions I've just mentioned. Now, the Democrats sometimes will try to caveat everything and say, no, we don't actually believe in money.
Yeah.
Well, they may try to hide that, but the net effect of their actions is that they don't believe in borders.
Yes.
Right.
And some have said the reason Democrats feel this way about illegal immigrants is they want the numbers. They believe these illegal immigrants
will vote Democrat.
Well,
they're right.
That's the thinking on that.
If they can ever get them to be a citizen.
That's right.
Yeah, that would happen.
And they want to make that easy. You know,
yes, that is absolutely true.
You know, dreamers, we want to make them citizens.
Yeah. The more illegal immigrants that the Democrats can put on a, quote, pathway to citizenship, then the more votes they're going to lock in for generations.
That's right.
So, all right, next story, Steve.
All right. Have you guys ever heard of the term demographic jihad? We talk about jihad, Muslim struggle is what the word means. We talk about terrorism and violence and everything, but there's a concept called demographic jihad, where Muslims will come and get into a community, and then by virtue of birth, by virtue of other friends coming in, they start taking over the city and the community. And it's happening in Europe. A large amount of Muslims in Europe. There's a strong amount of a lot of Muslim mayors in Great Britain. And they can claim towns and cities. They to put up mosques. They have their no fly zone for police. Police aren't allowed to come in and enforce the law because they're enforcing Sharia on their own. And this is where it's gotten to be in England. I'm going to play you a little bit. This is the Muslim community in London is having a Ramadan prayer service in Windsor Castle. Cut 19. Cut 17. It's just a little brief thing, but this is like their White House. This is the King's residence. Now,
what was that we heard?
That was the call to prayer. That was them having their prayer service in the halls of Windsor Castle. And so this is, by hook or by any means necessary, I think is what the Muslim belief is. They're going to take over as much territory as they can. And
so they're proselytizing a little bit.
Well, they are proselytizing, although I don't know that they welcome a whole lot of like Anglo-Muslims, but they do claim, because they're having a lot of children, which is, generally a good thing. But and they claim the geographic area as Muslim, as their own.
Mm. Well, yeah, that's a problem in France is 10% Muslim now. I mean, the migration from Africa, the north of the Sahara, and then the Middle East, especially among Middle Eastern men who are mostly Islamic.
Yeah.
Is
they're not migrating to get away from something. They're migrating to achieve a goal.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Steve.
My pleasure.
My thanks to Wesley and to Fred and to Chris and to Brent Creeley, our producer. Is there anybody else? The MD, Perkins. And we hope you have a great day. And we'll be back here tomorrow, Thursday, for another edition of Today's Issues.
And my father, your